Let's talk about the books that I plan to read in the month of April. This month I have some catching up to do. There's a couple of books that I started late February that I still haven't gotten to or finished. I'm slowly making my way through, but I really want to prioritize them. I also fell behind on my arcs and I don't like being behind on them. I've been seeing people do like a TBR tackle, TBR takedown series. I might adopt that same method but apply it to my arcs, like ARC tackle or ARC takedown. I don't know exactly how I want to approach it, but it needs to be done because I have a lot of arcs. Anyways, let's start off by talking about the books that I need to finish and catch up on. The first one is called So What If I'm a Puta? Diaries of Transness, Sex Work and Desire by Amara Moira. This is a memoir and essays about a trans sex worker living in Brazil. I'm really enjoying it. I started it for the Trans Rights Readathon, but I didn't quite have time to finish it. I don't know where my copy of this book is, but I have one more story that I have to read in One Bad Night and Other Stories. This is an anthology of horror short stories that was put together by the Aardvark book box. I'm really enjoying these short stories. I've been reading them like once every month or so since late last year. So I've had this book with me for a while. My favorite so far has been the story by Kylie Baker, which makes me excited to dive into her work. I have Bat Eater and Other Stories and I already have her new book pre-ordered. I think it's Japanese Gothic. The only short story that I have left is the one by Stephen Graham Jones and I was saving it as a treat. I think I finally want to tackle it so I can, be done with that anthology and move on. Not in a bad way. I've been really enjoying everything in that. Another book that I'm bringing with me is The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. I do have the bind up of the Inheritance trilogy. So The 100,000 Kingdoms is the first book to this trilogy. I'm about 160 pages in. I don't know how long The 100,000 Kingdoms is, but I want to say I'm about halfway through. I really want to make sure that I finish this. This year, I want to read everything by N.K. Jemisin. This is where I'm starting. I'm having a good time. Another series that I'm bringing with me into April is book 5 of The Expanse. This is Nemesis Games by James S.A. Corey. I started it and got halfway through it and then my loan expired, so I had to re-request it. I should get it in about a week. This time I got it as an audiobook, so I should be able to finish it by the end of this month and then move on to the 6th book in The Expanse. More thoughts on that later. And then the final book that I'm bringing with me into March from February is River of Bones and Other Stories by Rebecca Roanhorse. I did get an arc of this. It has already been published. This is a collection of her short stories that have been previously published, as well as her novella in her 6 World series. And I believe this is going to be the final installment that we get in that series. It's been years since I've read it, but I just remember loving it and I'm not ready to part with it, so that's why I've also been putting it off. So moving on to new books that I'm going to read, and essentially the rest of these are advanced reader copies. There are a couple of books on the Booker short list that I want to read that I have. I don't know if I'll be able to get to them, so I won't talk about them here. We'll just talk about the art. The first one is If We Cannot Go the Speed of Light by Kim Choyeop. This is translated by Anton Her. This is going to be published on April 28th. And this is a collection of sci-fi short stories. I'm really intrigued because the inside says that it's similar to Ted Chiang's work, and I love his works. So I'm very excited to get to this. It says, across the 7 stories, Kim Choyeop travels galaxies and explores the furthest reaches of the human mind. Very excited. I also have an arc of Seasons of Glass and Iron by Amal El-Mohtar. This is the author of, one of the authors of This Is How We Lose the Time War. This is also a collection of short stories. I don't know what their focus is, so I'll let y'all know at the end of the month. I have an advanced listener's copy of Last Night in Brooklyn by Xochitl Gonzalez. This is the author of Olga Dies Dreaming, which I haven't read, and Anita de Monte Laughs Last, which I loved. So it's a contemporary fiction novel. From what I understand in this one, we're focusing on a young woman who's caught between this like glamorous creative life and the crushing expectations of her family. And this is set against the backdrop of like early 2000s Brooklyn when it was being gentrified. I can't wait to get to this one. Another book that I'm hoping to read is You Should Have Been Nicer to My Mom by Vincent Tirado. This is my first by him. I believe this is going to be a horror haunted house novel, but I also feel like based on the synopsis that I read that it might lean into like literary horror. I'm also planning to read Sisters in Yellow by Mieko Kawakami. Breast and Eggs is one of my favorite books ever, so I can't wait to get to this one. What I know about Sisters in Yellow is that it's set in 1990s Tokyo, and it's a story about sisterhood. That's all I know, but I'm ready. And then I also have an arc of The Fox and the Devil by Kiersten White. I haven't read anything by Kiersten White, and if I'm being completely honest, her works have never really intrigued me, not enough to pick them up at least, until this one. I think this is like a dark gothic fantasy about like vampires or something like that. I love stories about vampires, and this is particularly why I requested this one, and I want to see if her writing style works for me. I think those are all the books that I have for April. I do have a couple of pre-orders that are coming in, like Japanese Gothic by Kylie Baker, and I can't remember, I think there's like one or two other more. So these are not all the books that I'm hoping to get to. These are the ones that I need to. And then if we have time by the end of the month, we'll see where things go. So yeah, I think I definitely want to make a couple of videos where I specifically tackle the arcs that I have. ARC tackle. Look out for those. Let me know down below what you're reading in April. What are you excited to get to?